Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this post-budget analysis session. I'm joined by my colleagues Parvati, Franklin, Yash, and Amay. Happy to take up questions after the first 15 minutes. We will have a run through of the slides, the which is the compendium from the note that was sent out to our clients. Can I move to the slide one, and then we can take up subsequent slides. Okay, so quickly, the summary of the budget, the nine priorities were set out. It's there on the screen. More importantly, the capex number is intact, which is a jump of 17%. When I say intact, मतलब जो फेब में बजट आया था एस्टिमेट उसमें जो दिया था 11.1 लाख करोड़ that's intact, which is 3.4% of GDP. So there is no change there. The other good thing is fiscal deficit is now lower compared to 5.1%, which was the interim budget estimated number. So which is a good thing. And obviously it is down 70. It's estimated to be down 70 basis points compared to the last number FY24 5.6%. तो ये अच्छी बात है. एंड ऑब्वियसली आगे जाके और उसको कम करने की बात चल रही है. बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटीज काफी रैशनलाइज की हैं. दैट्स द FM's announcement there. There is a change in the standard deduction. Income tax slabs change हुई हैं, and there are other changes on the long term and short term as well. So which we'll discuss, my colleagues will discuss separately. So slide number 2, we are now moving to, the individual numbers क्या रहे हैं जो भी हमने discuss किया. Again, the good part, non-tax revenue is showing a healthy number, which is about 36%. Obviously यहाँ पे, dividend का role है, जो RBI से मिला है. But the net tax revenue, which is largely the GST, that is a very healthy 11% number. Disinvestment थोड़ा वो रहा है. It's been a disappointment, and बहुत ज़्यादा इसमें एफर्ट नहीं किया जा रहा. तो वहाँ आप देखेंगे तो 0.6 लाख करोड़ हमने किया था, उसके आगे से 0.5 लाख करोड़ की ही बात हो रही है. So that's not a healthy this thing, but so be it, and there is a separate discussion around that. Capex, we have discussed 11.1 lakh crore, 17% higher year over year. बहुत ही पॉजिटिव नंबर है ये. फिजिकल डेफिसिट 4.9% पे ले आए हैं. आगे जाके 4.5% की बात हो रही है FY26 में, एंड उसके बाद हर साल और कम करने की बात हो रही है. वेरी वेरी हेल्दी नंबर. नॉमिनल जीडीपी ग्रोथ थोड़ा सा ज्यादा एक्सपेक्टेड था, 11% के आसपास, बट ठीक है. इसको देख के ऐसा लग रहा है कि इससे कम तो होना नहीं चाहिए. दिस इज अ वेरी प्रैक्टिकल नंबर, एंड मोर देन दैट इट्स अ वेरी कंजर्वेटिव नंबर, बिकॉज कोई भी आप अनुमान ले लें 6.5-7% तो सब लोग बात कर ही रहे हैं इन रियल सेंस. तो अगर इन्फ्लेशन ऐड करेंगे तो 11% तो बनता ही बनता है. बट मे बी आई एम श्योर दे विल हैव हैड देयर स्कूल ऑफ थॉट कि इसके अराउंड क्या किया है. I'll jump to the before I hand it over to my colleagues. The larger, if I'm able to summarize this budget, I think the larger message is that overall it's packaged nicely. इसको overall, one would rate it, between good and very good. If not excellent, it will be in that range of good to very good. There would be obviously certain section of the society जहाँ पे थोड़ा बहुत disappointment होगा, but in the larger scheme of things में अगर आप देखें तो ये इसमें they have kept the larger society in the larger picture in mind, and वो ध्यान में रख के these measures have been announced. With that, I'll just hand over to my colleague Parvati for the subsequent slides, and then individual sectors will be covered by the analysts. हम इसके बाद at the end of this 10 minutes हम quickly will take up all the questions which are there on YouTube, and then only we'll wrap it up. There will be a Google link provided in the chat section in case कोई queries रह जाती हैं, या even otherwise feel free to fill up that form. That will just help us connect with our audience separately later on if required. Over to you, Parvati.
Oh, thanks, Jaspreet. So following up from what Jaspreet was mentioning, that the budget is good overall, it is more of an inclusive budget, where the government has tried to kind of put the growth on these four pillars that you see out here with respect to their long-term vision of Viksit Bharat. So the four pillars that the government is focusing on from a overall growth perspective over the longer term would be Annadata, farmer, Garib, poor, Yuva, youth, and Mahila, women. So a lot of different schemes covered, different kind of packages doled out under these four buckets. I would quickly kind of summarize a few. So when you look at the farmers, so primarily some of these were part of the agriculture allied and rural development packages, where about a crore farmers kind of are looked to be initiated into natural farming over the next couple of years. About 10,000 of bio-input resource centers are to be established. And under their overall Digital India mission, agriculture is also to be covered, where they look to cover the farmers and their lands within this program. They also look at 400 districts from a crops survey perspective, from a digital overview, and then over issuance of Jan Samarth based Kisan credit card. So Kisan credit card is something when while sowing crops and other kinds of credits that they need, or during the key periods of the production, they can avail certain credits and kind of use it. So coming to Garib, what they have done is they, under different Pradhan Mantri schemes which already exist, they have kind of scaled it up or retained that program. Essentially, like the Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, which covers 80 people, 80 crore people, kind of is extended. Different other schemes, primarily Vishwakarma, which caters to crafts and artisans, street vendors via Sabnidhi, and then the National Livelihood Program, primarily which gives financial loans and services to the poor people. All these areas, the schemes have been kind of stepped up to support the economic activities. Apart from that, under the Urban Awas Yojana point two, what they have done is they have to address the needs for the housing for about 1 crore of urban, rural, and middle class families, kind of been addressed in this segment. When you come to Yuva, this has remained the core focus of the budget with respect to primarily generating employment and skilling programs. So around 5 different schemes with initiatives overall facilitate about 4 crore of youth over a 5-year period, where the central outlay is about 2 lakh crore. Some of the key initiatives around this is that about a month's of wage for anybody entering the formal sector, a new entrant, in 3 installments, about 15,000 is expected to be given, benefiting almost more than 210 lakh youths. Financial support for higher education of about 10 lakhs. Now, this is especially with respect to domestic education, not with anything to do with abroad and education there. Under the skilling initiative, 20 lakh youths will be skilled over the next 5 years, and internship opportunities with top 500 companies. So essentially, the whole agenda here is to move lot of employment from unorganized sector to the formal organized sector, build more opportunities in the core manufacturing sectors, which will also help benefit the MSME sectors going forward under the skilling program. So coming to the last bracket, which is Mahila women, again, this has been a core where government under different schemes has rolled out 3 lakh crore kind of schemes catering to women and girls. One important with respect to the workforce, where they have encouraged working women hostels and establishing creches so that better participation is available. And with respect to housing, they expect the states to encourage lower stamp duties for houses or properties purchased under women's name. So this is another initiative by the government. Uh, So coming to the sectorial outlook under various sectors. So I'll start with agriculture and food processing. So picking up a cue where I mentioned that the farmers were given a lot of schemes and benefits. So overall, rural development has remained the core during this budget, where agriculture and allied activities, allied sectors kind of received a provisioning of 1.5 lakh crore around. What is to be seen is that the fertilizer subsidy for FY25 was slightly reduced by around 13%, and this remains neutral for fertilizer companies, which have kind of seen a correction in the prices as well globally. Other notable scheme or encouragement was that they look to develop vegetable production centers, which is more closer to the consumption center. So this will help in all kinds of farmer producer organizations, startups, cooperatives across the value chain in the vegetable supply chain, collection, storage, marketing, to kind of grow and benefit from that. In the end, where we also look at certain Atmanirbharta. Now, this is a carry on from the earlier schemes that they had in the previous budget. So nothing new specifically here, but kind of further boost, which is like for oil seeds around mustard, groundnut, sesame, soybean, and sunflower. Overall, this will help agri and FMCG companies primarily from building more self-sufficient reliance around the pulses and oil seeds that the government aims to achieve. Coming to healthcare and well-being, while couple of key changes I'll look under the customs duty from a broader healthcare perspective, allocations largely remain same from what was announced in the interim budget with marginal changes. So overall positive for the sector. PLI benefits, which was announced in the interim budget, which went up almost 2x. So here the PLI schemes are specially for API and intermediate companies in the value chain that have kind of been given. Under Ayushman Bharat, that's a slightly muted thing, which was similar to the interim budget, where it is only a 7% YOY growth when we look at the FY24-25 allocation. And under the broader Bihar program, where the number of medical colleges is slightly low, the government looks to set up new medical colleges in this space. So I'll hand over to my colleague.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Parvati. So I'll be covering the auto sector at the moment. And in auto sector, there were no major announcements, right? One of the key expectation was regarding the new FAME policy for promoting electric vehicles, that is the FAME 3. But as of now, nothing has been finalized, and the outlay for the existing FAME scheme remains unchanged at 26 billion, which was announced in the interim budget. Similarly, if we look at the auto PLI scheme, the outlay remains 235 billion, which is again remains unchanged. This was announced same in the interim budget. This is to promote the domestic manufacturing in India. And if we see at the PM e-bus Seva scheme, which was launched in 2023, the total outlay for that scheme stands at 13 billion for FY25. On defense, if we see, so government has retained the total outlay of 6.21 lakh crores, which was announced in the interim budget. And this is one of the highest sectoral allocation, reflecting government's commitment towards the defense sector. On travel and tourism, government has allocated around 24 billion to the tourism ministry to promote domestic tourism. And apart from this, government of India will also going to develop Vishnupad and Mahabodhi temple in Bihar to promote the tourism, especially in the state of Bihar. Apart from that, they are also looking to revive the Nalanda University and making it as one of the most attractive tourist center within the state of Bihar. So this all definitely will lead to promote tourism within the India, as well as 2 or 3 major highlights and gifts are given to Bihar. With all, I'll hand it over to my colleague Franklin.
Yeah, thanks, Yash. So we have seen capex outlay being at 11 trillion, which was quite meaningful. And taking a cue from that, if you see within the capex, Minister of Road Transport and Highways, that budget is quite significant at 2.78 trillion. And there has been no change vis-a-vis from the interim budget. This is likely to benefit road EPC construction companies. Also, the government had given 50-year interest-free loans to states. So that has been enhanced from 1.3 lakh crores to 1.5 lakh crores. So this will benefit a lot of infrastructure companies who depend on states for their capex. Railway budget outlay also has been increased from 2.55 lakh crores. Has been increased to 2.55 lakh crores vis-a-vis 2.4 lakh crores last year. And this is likely to benefit a lot of railway-focused companies and infrastructure companies. Within that, if you see the capex for wagon manufacturing has increased from 23,000 crores to 38,000 crores, which is a significant rise. Also, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we've heard a lot about it, from the government, and they have actually increased. They have tried to address the housing needs of 1 crore urban poor and middle class families. So that started it in 2015, and this is now phase 2 of that scheme. So out of a total, they envisage an investment of 10 lakh crores, within which the center is likely to invest about 2.2 lakh crores over the next 5 years. And they have already given an outlay of 44,000 crores for this year, which is going to be ramped up. So the modalities of these scheme are likely to come out, in the next few days. So this is likely to benefit a whole host of housing companies, including affordable housing, EPC, building materials, paints, pipes, so on and so forth. So that entire ecosystem is going to benefit from the housing needs. We can also see the outlay for PMAY urban and PMAY rural. The outlay has been increased significantly. So for PMI urban, it has increased to 30,000 crores vis-a-vis 22,000 crores. Similarly, for rural, it has increased to 54,000 crores vis-a-vis 32,000 crores. So we are seeing significant increase under the PMAY schemes. Yeah. Also for the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which is going to cater to 25,000 rural habitations. So this is going to improve the road connectivity. So this started way back in 2000, and the last phase 3 was in 2019. So we are now in phase 4 of that project. So it's a long-term project, and the government is committed to improve the road connectivity in the rural areas. So they have they have given an allocation of 19,000 crores for this segment vis-a-vis 17,000 crores. Again, considering now we are in a coalition government, they have done they've made some special announcements for Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. So for Bihar, they have under the accelerated irrigation benefit program, they have given an outlay of 11,500 crores. Again, for improving the road connectivity projects, airports, medical colleges, sports infrastructure in Bihar, they have given an outlay of 26,000 crores. And for power projects in Bihar, they have given an outlay of 21,000 crores. So this is likely to benefit a lot of infrastructure companies who are operating in that segment. Also, Andhra Pradesh, as we know, needs a new capital now. So hence, in formation of that capital and all the infrastructure and capex requirements, they have given an outlay of 15,000 crores. So that was on the infrastructure segment. Coming to the BFSI sector. So in terms of gross borrowings, if you compare it with what was announced in the interim budget, there has been a marginal improvement of 14 lakh crores and net borrowing of 11.6 lakh crores. So this is going to have a positive impact on GSEC yields, and it is going to benefit a lot of financial companies. So for public sector banks in particular, which have a lot of investment in GSECs, it's going to help them in improving the MTM gains. And for the NBFC sector as well, it will help them in reducing their cost of borrowings, because they borrow a lot from the debt market. In terms of Mudra loans, so Mudra loans are given for people who do not have proper access to the financial markets. So that is where the government steps in and offers these loans. So that limit has been enhanced from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs. And what they have said is people who have successfully repaid their loans, which were between 5 to 10 lakhs, they get the enhanced capital, they get the enhanced loan of 20 lakhs now. So that has been expanded. It's going to benefit a lot of banks, NBFCs, MFIs who are lending to the MSME sector. Again, TREDS is an invoice discounting mechanism. So that has seen good traction, and they have tried to expand this scope now. So first they had from threshold of 500 crores, they've lowered this threshold to 250 crores. So this is going to add about 7,000 companies on the platform. So presently we have about 2,500 companies on this platform. So that is the expanded scale and size, again going to benefit banks, NBFCs and MFIs. Again, in terms of asset quality, we hear a lot about possibly rising asset quality concerns. So the government has tried to address that in two announcements. Firstly, they are going to make an integrated tech platform for IBC, which is going to improve and speed track resolution. Secondly, debt recovery tribunal. This is the second largest after IBC. So again, they are going to enhance the debt recovery tribunals, which will again result in speedier resolution of NPA cases. Again, for MSMEs, they are going to launch credit guarantee scheme, which is going to be without any collateral, and the government is going to provide the guarantee for this. Secondly, we see the MSMEs many a times they face NPA challenges, or rather pre-NPA. So they get into the SME category where they have defaulted, but they have not yet gone into NPA. So a lot of banks, they do not want to fund once the MSME defaults. So what the government has said is like they are going to come up and they are going to provide funding for these MSME categories wherein the default has happened beyond their control, but they have not yet become an NPA. So that is where they will try and recover these MSMEs as well and bring them out of the unpaid situation. Yeah, I'll now hand it over to Parvati.
Okay, so I'll cover the custom duty changes that has been kind of put in the budget out. So a couple of important ones remains. The duties on mobile chargers and PCDA has been reduced to 15% from the earlier 20%. Now, this is positive for all EMS companies where we see PCBA is an integral raw material. Apart from that, 25 critical minerals have also been exempted from custom duties, which include lithium, copper, cobalt, nickel, and potash. All of this is positive for sectors around power, telecommunications, and electronics. Increased duties on ammonium nitrate from 7.5% to 10%. So domestic chemical manufacturers benefit out of this. Apart from that, exemption of duties on ferronickel, we believe again domestic manufacturers, it remains a positive. Increase in custom duties from PCBAs used for specific telecom equipment, especially from 10% to 15%. Now, this is beneficial for the domestic telecom equipment manufacturers, basically the EMS players catering to the telecom sector. Increase in duty on PVC, flex, and flex banners, again from 10 to 25%, especially for non-biodegradable and harmful to the environment. This is positive for domestic manufacturers. Increase of duties from nil to 10% on imported solar glass used for manufacturing of solar PV modules to promote domestic manufacturing. So again, this is very positive step for domestic solar glass manufacturers. So exemption again on solar. So basically certain capital goods which are used in manufacturing of solar cells. This is positive again for domestic players operating for setting up capacities here. When we come to where domestic, the custom duty is reduced, especially with respect to gold and silver bars from 15 to 6%. Again, this is overall positive for the jewelry business when we look at it. In addition, when we look at the pharma space, pharma and healthcare space, so 3 cancer medications are exempt fully. Now, this will help reduce the prices between 10 to 20% average and make the, the overall cost, which is on the higher side, it might slightly make it more affordable for patients struggling with cancer. Apart from that, there are certain duties which are proposed with respect to X-ray tubes and flat panel detectors, which go into manufacturing of these X-ray tubes at different percentages, especially from 15 to 5% till the next year, March 25. So these reduced custom duties will help in the country's ambition to build capacities and capabilities in-house in this segment. Coming to, certain segments where, so prawns and shrimps, the government has always been giving out certain exemptions and duties. So here the fish feed, we look at it that overall reduced to 5%. Now this is overall positive for fisheries and shrimp feed and will also help augment the exports within this category. Reduced duty on shea nuts from 30% to half, almost 15% remains positive for this sector. I'll hand over to my colleague, Amay.
Yeah, so first we'll be discussing the changes in the new tax regime. Yeah. So हम अभी बात करेंगे जो टैक्स चेंजेस किए हैं न्यू टैक्स रिजीम में. तो बेसिकली जो टैक्स स्लैब्स है उसमें कुछ ट्वीक्स किए गए हैं. तो जो लास्ट ईयर तक 3 to 6 lakhs का जो टैक्स स्लैब था, now that has been increased to 3 to 7 lakhs, and similarly you can see the tax slab has been increased for 6 to 9 from to 7 to 10, and for 9 to 12 it has been increased to 10 to 12, but the tax rates have been kept same. Now, because of this change in the tax slab, overall taxpayer in the highest tax slab would be saving up to 17,500 rupees per year on the on his taxes. Coming to the changes in the capital gains, so on all the listed assets, here we have seen a major announcement from the FM. So coming to stocks and equity mutual funds. So here earlier on the short-term gains side, it was charged at 15%, but now it has been increased to 20%. And similarly for the long-term capital gains, earlier it used to be charged at 10%, but now it has been increased to 12.5%. And similarly, we can see some changes in the listed securities, which is in bonds, REITs, InvITs, equity fund of fund, gold, silver, ETF, overseas FOF, and gold fund. So here earlier, everything used to get charged on the slab rate, or there was some
or it used to get charged at, let's say, 10-20% with the indexation benefit. But now everything has been moved to flat 12.5% as the tax on the LTCG side. On the STCG, which is the short-term capital gains, it has been kept similar at the slab rate. Now coming to the unlisted asset space. So here a major announcement has come actually in the real estate space, where earlier all your on the LTCG side, the long-term capital gain side, the gain used to get charged at 20% tax rate with the indexation benefit. But now now that has been removed, and whatever gain you have got on the real estate asset, now it will be charged flat at 12.5%. And this is effective from yesterday, which is 23rd July. So any sale that has been done after this date will be charged at 12.5% as the LTCG. And there have been few changes in the STT in the options and future, which is the derivative segment. Here we have seen that the volumes and the participation had gone off the roof. So the finance minister has tried to try to curb that with additional taxation. So on the options, the STT has been increased from 0.625% currently to 0.1%, and STT on the futures has been increased from 0.0125% to 0.02. Now on this STT part, this is effective from October. So currently the older rates would be prevalent, but from October this will be increased. On the buybacks of shares, so earlier there used to be an arbitrage between the dividends that were paid out by the company and the buybacks that were done. So buybacks were much more better in terms of the taxation part. But now with this budget, now that arbitrage has been removed. So whoever gives his shares in the buyback, now he will be taxed in his own like the payment or whatever profit he has made will be taxed as per his tax slab rather than a flat rate that was done earlier. And the angel tax that has been abolished for all the classes of investors. Yeah, so with that we will end the presentation and we are ready to take questions. So over to you, Jasprit.
Thanks, thanks, Amay. You can stop the share slide. Yeah, thanks. I request everyone to just switch on their cameras quickly so that if there's any question directed to us, इसके अराउंड क्वेश्चन भी हैं चैट बॉक्स में. मैं 2-4 क्वेश्चंस और भी ले लूंगा एंड देन आई रिक्वेस्ट अमय टू लीड आफ्टर दैट. तो जो कैपिटल गेन्स बढ़ाया उसको दो नजरिए से देख सकते हैं. एक नजरिया ऑब्वियसली है कि नहीं बढ़ाते तो अच्छा था, बट द अदर पॉइंट, द लार्जर बिगर 2 points आर, वन इज की शॉर्ट टर्म में ज्यादा बढ़ाया है और इधर कम बढ़ाया है. सो दैट मीन्स कि जो आर्बिट्राज था पहले या डिफरेंस था पहले 5% था बिटवीन शॉर्ट एंड लॉन्ग टर्म, 15 - 10, वो अब बढ़ के 7.5% हो गया, 20 - 12.5. सो क्लियरली मैसेज यही है कि फॉर इन्वेस्टर्स टू डू मोर लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टिंग, बिकॉज वहां पे ही पोस्ट टैक्स ज्यादा रिटर्न बनता है. ज्यूमिंग शॉर्ट टर्म लॉन्ग टर्म सेम रिटर्न दे रहा है, पोस्ट टैक्स रिटर्न्स इन लॉन्ग टर्म आर हायर. दैट इज बिकॉज वहां 12.5 है, शॉर्ट टर्म में 20% है. दैट इज वन क्लियर मैसेज. The other way of looking at it is, and this is again one school of thought, and I'm not saying each and every equity investor has to subscribe to this thought, कि सबसे ज्यादा जो टैक्स रेट आज के दिन में कहीं लग रहा है, which is could be let's say 35, 36, 37%, I'm including surcharges, तो वो सबसे मैक्सिमम है. उसके मुकाबले अभी भी इवन आफ्टर इंक्रीज 12.5% ऑन लॉन्ग टर्म इज द लोएस्ट. इससे कम कहीं पे भी किसी भी एसेट क्लास में टैक्स नहीं है. Right, so there is still a big incentive for all equity shareholders or equity investors or potential equity investors to invest in Indian equity market for a long term, right? वो बड़ा जो difference है, let's say between 35% in a normal income and 12.5% here, and that gap of 22% or that's still very high. Therefore, all those reasons to be remaining in the market, to continue to remain on equity as an asset class remains there. लास्टली वैल्यूएशन अभी भी बहुत ज़्यादा हाई नहीं है. इट इज स्टिल एट अबाउट 22 टाइम्स FY25 एंड FY26 में जाएंगे तो शायद 20 टाइम्स के स्लाइटली नीचे आ जाएगा. तो इट इज एंड वी नॉट सेइंग कि यहाँ से 15-20% निफ्टी आराम से दे सकता है रिटर्न्स. डेफिनेटली शायद आराम से नहीं मिलेगा. मे बी इट विल टेक हायर देन द रिटर्न्स मे बी स्लाइटली लोअर देन 15%. बट यहाँ से स्टॉक पिकिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएगी. सेक्टर रोटेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएगा. एंड दैट द need for collaboration with an equity advisor, the need to need to have an engaged discussion with with somebody who's been there done that is become very high. उसके requirement अब बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगी. तो all we are saying is do careful investments. रन जैसे एक फ्री रन मिला था हमें पिछले 1 साल में या ऑलमोस्ट 2 साल में, वो शायद अभी उतना इजीली ना रहे. सो विद दैट एक क्वेश्चन भी था किसी का कि उसको कैसे देखना चाहिए. एंड आई थिंक मैंने वो डेट्स बता दी ऑलरेडी कि आई थिंक एक्सेप्ट FNO एवरीथिंग इज एज ऑफ yesterday, right? FNO is 1st October में.
Yeah, so FNO is from 1st October, but the rest everything is effective yesterday.
23rd July. Yeah. Ame, you can just pick up questions and direct it to us.
Yeah, so since there is a change in the taxation, so capital gains for short term and long term, there are some questions regarding how we would change our strategy in terms of the portfolio and our rebalancing, because now since the taxation is higher, especially on the long term and as well as short term, so how we would go forward with the rebalancing part or the portfolio selection part. So would we try to stick to one stock, let's say more than a year, 2 years, 3 years, just to have that benefit of the longer term capital gains rather than booking it prior to one? So on that part.
Okay. ये मतलब मे बी वी विल कीप दिस इन माइंड, बट दिस विल नॉट बी एन ओवरराइडिंग फैक्टर कि अगर हम शॉर्ट टर्म में बुक करा रहे हैं तो 20% टैक्स भरवाना पड़ रहा है और लॉन्ग टर्म में तो 12.5% है. तो उसको बिकॉज वो पहले भी था, जैसे डिफरेंस जो पहले 5,000% था अभी 7.5% हो गया है. तो डेफिनेटली हमें एक्विंटिस रिसर्च एंड रैंकिंग का हमेशा से वी वर ऑफ द व्यू की लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट इज द बेस्ट वे, विच मीन्स long-term products like 5 or Dhanwan or all other products. वही that is the true product and that is long-term investment के लिए वही route अपनाना चाहिए. But overnight we will not change our strategy because 2.5% will not override कि किसी स्टॉक का अगर पोटेंशियल है कि हमने किसी स्टॉक A को हटा के स्टॉक B दिया है, तो क्लियरली उसका रीजन यही होगा कि जो स्टॉक B है वो स्टॉक A से एटलीस्ट 10% ज्यादा रिटर्न दे सकता है ऑन एन एनुअलाइज्ड बेसिस, राइट? अगर स्टॉक ए दे रहा था 10% तो ये 20 दे सकता है. अगर वो 20 दे रहा था मतलब या दे सकता था, तो स्टॉक बी है वो 30% और मोर दे सकता है. सो दैट 10% इंक्रीमेंटल एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न्स इज वेरी हाई कंपेयर टू एडिशनल 2.5% टैक्स. तो इसलिए इसके लिए ओवरनाइट हम स्ट्रेटेजी तो नहीं चेंज कर रहे हैं. हाँ, अगर वो ये बहुत ज्यादा क्लोज हो जाते, लेट्स से वो दोनों को कन्वर्ज कर देते, तो ऑब्वियसली there could have been a reason, but not for this reason कि हमें overnight अपना strategy इसके around change कर देंगे. Our thesis would remain same: long term investment, sector rotation, bottom up stock picking, and believe in stock ideas where good promoter, good product, good moat, and goes without saying reasonable valuation. Good valuation आजकल मिलती नहीं है, वो आप सब देख ही रहे हैं कैसे स्टॉक 50, 70, 80 पी पे चल रहे हैं. वो तो ऐसे है कि जैसे पता नहीं क्या मार्केट हो रहा है. इट्स ऑल अबाउट लिक्विडिटी, ऑल अबाउट फ्लोट. बट दैट इज वेयर रोल ऑफ एडवाइजर्स एंड पीपल लाइक अस बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हम रैंडमली आपको 60, 70, 80 पी के हाई लेवल्स पे इन्वेस्ट नहीं कराएंगे, और कराएंगे भी तो बहुत सोच समझ कर कि हमें पता है कि उसकी अर्निंग्स 3 साल में डबल होने की अपेक्षा है. हमें पता है कि हमने उनके प्रमोटर से, उनके मैनेजमेंट से मीटिंग की है, हमने उनकी प्रेजेंटेशन देखी है, कौन कॉल रिकॉर्डिंग सुनी है, उनका फाइनेंशियल मॉडलिंग की है, और हमारा बहुत हाई कन्विक्शन है कि यहाँ से भी वो 30, 40, 50% रिटर्न दे सकता है. तभी हम वो चढ़ के 60, 70, 80 पी के स्टॉक पे इन्वेस्ट करने का सलाह देते हैं. एंड दैट टू ओनली लेट्स से लेस देन 10% और मे बी लेस देन 15% ऑफ द ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो. अनलाइक the herd in the market जहाँ पे to the extent of 80-85% इन्वेस्टमेंट ऐसे में डाल दी जाती है, और वो भी बिना इतना डीप एनालिसिस किए. सो दैट विल बी द ब्रॉडर डिफरेंस बिटवीन आवर अप्रोच and the others, and we'll largely stick with that, our long term investment, trying to find good value buys.
Yeah, so there have been some questions on the capital gains part, especially on the intersection for a real estate asset. So there was some clarification coming from the finance ministry that the indexation would be, so properties that have been bought prior to 2001, for that the indexation benefit would still be there. But if something is bought after 2001, then of course the flat 12.5% long-term capital gains tax would be charged on that. Let me see if so viewers, if you have any questions, you can type it out in the chat section and then we'll take it up here live. So there have been some questions on the any impact if we can see on the capital gain because of the increase in the capital gain. So I will just pitch in and then I will ask Jaspreet sir to also add on. So yesterday we saw that when the capital gains tax was increased, there was a panic in the market, and then the market dropped around 1.5%. But if we see by the day end, then the market had already become stable. And even if we see today, then the market was kind of flat, nifty if we see, and small cap and mid cap have actually rallied today. So from that angle, I think market is now starting to factoring in the higher capital gains tax. So from the short term, we don't think it should have any effect in the short term. I think that event has already played out. Jaspreet sir, if you have anything to add to this.
Largely the fear of using the fear of tax on the market, right?
Yeah, so the capital gains have been increased. So because of that, do we see like a sell-off coming in?
नहीं, वो सही बात है. वो सेल ऑफ अगर आनी होती तो कल मतलब आई भी थी, बट इट जस्ट बाउंस बैक स्मार्टली एज आई सेड. एंड ये डिफरेंस ये कि 2018 में और अभी I'll tell you the difference. There is again a school of thought, and हम लोग सब यहाँ पे 2018 में हमने देखा है कि 1 Feb 2018 में जब ये आया था तो उस दिन मार्केट जरूर 0.2% करेक्ट की थी, बट सब्सिक्वेंटली ओवर अ 2 month पीरियड the Nifty corrected 10%, the mid caps about 15%, and the small cap about 18%. अब ये तुलना की जा रही है कि शायद उस जैसा कुछ इवेंट प्ले आउट हो सकता है. तो इसमें दो चीजें हैं. पहली बात, एक बार अगर इवेंट प्ले आउट हो जाता है कि मार्केट इतना करेक्ट किया था फॉर XY रीजन, तो एग्जैक्टली वैसे कभी प्ले आउट नहीं होगा तो ये जरूर हो सकता है कि निफ्टी 2%, मिड कैप 3% और स्मॉल कैप 4%. अब ये तो बहुत नॉर्मल सी बात है, राइट? मतलब इतना तो करेक्शन करना, तो ये एक तरीका है देखने का. Second, the last time, Feb 18, the market was not prepared at all. There was no discussion around getting LTCG back. वो जेटली साहब ने तो मार्केट हिला दी थी overnight. And the market just kind of trembled उसके बाद की, and उसमें grandfathering भी थी, उसमें वो clause भी था. इसकी वजह से काफी लोगों को अपना शॉर्ट टर्म बुक करके they wanted to get that benefit because otherwise overnight उनको 10% देना पड़ता. इस वजह से उस समय सेल ऑफ आए थे, एंड दैट्स द रीजन 2 months तक मार्केट नर्वस में थी. इस बार द डिफरेंस इज मार्केट वाज प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट बिकॉज हर एवरी सेकंड इन्वेस्टर जो मुंबई में है, आप मतलब 15 करोड़ में से मेरे ख्याल से 14.9 करोड़ तो लोगों को था कि कुछ ना कुछ आ सकता है इसमें. डीमैट इन्वेस्टर्स, डीमैट अकाउंट होल्डर्स, राइट? उसमें से जो भी एक्टिव होंगे, तो ये फर्क था कि इस बार पीपल वर प्रिपेयर्ड. इट वाज देयर ऑन सोशल मीडिया, इट वाज देयर ऑन टेलीविजन कि कुछ ना कुछ हो सकता है. अब वो बिल्कुल मतलब 12.5 ही होगा या कम किया जाएगा या बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ाया जाएगा, वो नहीं पता था, बट कुछ ना कुछ एक्सपेक्टेड था. एंड वो क्लियरली मार्केट ने जब एक बार उसको समझ लिया कि भाई इतना ही है, विच इज लाइक 15 का. इनफैक्ट वन सेक्शन ऑफ थॉट वाज आल्सो कि इससे बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा डैमेज किया जा सकता था बाय द FM, बट शायद उन्होंने नहीं किया, कीपिंग द लार्जर इंटरेस्ट इन माइंड कि शायद इतना भी ना बढ़ा दें कि कल को उनको यहाँ से जो पैसे आ रहे हैं वो भी वो नेगेटिव हो जाए, इधर से शेयर होल्डर वेल्थ डिस्ट्रक्शन हो जाए और ऊपर से पैसे एडिशनल जो आने हैं वो आए ना, तो नेट लॉस ना हो जाए. आई थिंक दैट्स द रीजन दे स्टॉप एट व्हाटएवर दे डिड. तो इसलिए बहुत बड़ा इसमें there is no need to and there's a question around that also कि crash expected है क्या मार्केट में. अब ये इवेंट बाहर है, अब ये इवेंट को आप ले दे के आप बहुत ज्यादा आप इसमें वो मत सोचिए. अगर आपको इसमें और ज्यादा कन्विक्शन लेनी है तो आज टुडे इज व्हाट वेंसडे एंड आप 2 दिन और इसमें आप देख लीजिए. अगर फ्राइडे तक करेक्शन नहीं आई है एंड 19% नहीं आएगी, बट अगर कुछ मीनिंगफुल करेक्शन नहीं आई है तो देन यू कैन बी रेस्ट एश्योर्ड, यू कैन स्लीप पीसफुली ओवर द वीकेंड कि अब ये नहीं होने वाला कुछ भी. जो होना है अगले बिटवीन टुडे डे आफ्टर एंड आज तो खत्म हो गया, बिटवीन नेक्स्ट 2 days हो जाएगा. ऐसा नहीं कि नेक्स्ट वीक सडनली मार्केट जागेगी, अरे एसटीसीजी बढ़ा दिया, अरे एलटीसीजी बढ़ा दिया, चलो अब सब मार्केट माल बेचो. वो नहीं होने वाला. तो अगर बहुत ज्यादा डर है, वेट टिल फ्राइडे, लुक एट द फ्राइडे क्लोज एंड देन यू कैन बी रेस्ट एश्योर्ड की देयर इज नो क्रैश कमिंग और देयर इज नो मेजर करेक्शन कमिंग फॉर दिस रीजन. और किसी कारण से वो अलग बात है, क्योंकि अब आजकल रीजन कहीं ना कुछ निकल ही आता है. अभी इजराइल सडनली it started attacking one part of the Houthi elements, जहाँ पे उन्होंने यमन से अटैक किया था. तो वो अब इस तरह की अलग अलग छोटी मोटी कहीं ना कहीं चीजें निकल आती हैं. बट जस्ट फॉर बजट, एंड बिलीव मी अब बजट का एपिसोड खत्म. अब सीधा इसका जो बजट का जो ब है वो अब सीधा मेरे ख्याल से मे बी 15 Jan 20 Jan of 2025 बोला जाएगा. उसके पहले अभी कोई बजट का नाम नहीं लेगा, क्योंकि अब वो वी विश इट और नॉट, अब 6 महीने बाद फिर बजट की हमने शक्ल देखनी है. तो वो इस बार बहुत जल्दी आ रहा है, बट दैट्स रियलिटी, उसमें कुछ कर नहीं सकते. तो we'll be done with this for this season. Nothing will not be this thing. I think there are more questions, so I'll hand it over back to Amit.
Yeah. So there were a few questions regarding the realty sector, because with the indexation benefit getting removed, there is a possibility that that people who are looking to invest in the real estate sector, and currently that sector is also doing very well. Home prices have seen good appreciation. So I will ask Yash to take this question regarding demand in the realty sector, if any impact can be seen with the indexation benefit getting removed and capital gains being at 12.5% flat. Over to you, Yash.
Yeah, thanks. So if we look at the latest report by Anurag also, right? So they have highlighted that the first time buyer share has increased post COVID, right? For last 2 to 3 years, the real estate sector is witnessing very good demand, a very robust demand that we have seen. If I talk about the month of June itself, the registrations in Mumbai were at record high, right? So what they have highlighted is that the first time buyer share has increased to almost 1/3, which used to be in low single digit. So that has changed completely, right? Now, if first time buyer share is increasing and it is expected to go up, there is no point of any capital gains for him, right? Because it's the first time buyer itself. So we don't see that the demand could get any impact or get impacted in the near term, because the first time buyer share is increasing. Apart from that, also as the indexation benefit is given to properties which were ancestral below, I think, which are bought beyond 2001, before 2001. So I don't see that there would be an immediate hit on the demand and an impact on the real estate sector in the near term.
Yeah, coming to the infra sector, so we have seen that government has gone ahead and increased the capex spend on the entire infra, plus all other defense and every other sector as well. So I will move to Franklin and regarding the infra spends that the government is planning to do, because in the last 6 months, I think because of the elections, the spends were a little less than what they are budgeted in the FY23 budget. If we see the revised estimates for FY24, then the spends were actually lesser than that. So from that angle, how do you see those spend turning up in FY25? So Franklin, if you can take that question.
Yeah, thanks, Amay. So infrastructure spends or rather capex spend has been more structural, and it's not just a one budget phenomenon. It has been happening for the past many last few years. So if I just take you back into history, and if you look at capex as a percentage of your overall capex, from 2010 to 2020, it has been in a range of about 12 to 15%. So that has been very kind of stable and on the lower side over the prior to 2020 for last 10 years. But from 2021 onwards, this spend has just started increasing. So 15 going to 16 going to 20, and today capex as a percentage of the total expenses is at 23%. So there is a very strong focus of this government to focus on infrastructure and capex spends. And we did see it in the interim budget also, because there was a pressure on the government to be a little bit more populist. But they did not succumb to that pressure, and they focused on capex even then. And now there is a clear runway for this government. So they are continuing on that capex trajectory which they have started. And if you look at railway capex is somewhere close to like 9-10 times if you just compare it to what it was like 9-10 years back. Even if you look at the Ministry of Road Transport, that capex in the last 5 years, it has gone up by 4 times. And we can see the effects of this capex all around us. You do hear a lot of news in and around of so many expressways coming out. There is a bullet train project. There are plans of coming out with more bullet train projects, high speed rail. That is being the new theme. You hear about a lot about the Vande Bharat trains, for improving connectivity. You have the DFCC, which is already in effect. So the east-west corridors. So the government is really doing a lot of things to improve road connectivity, rail connectivity, and these are the prominent parts of our overall capex ecosystem. So that is something which I believe is more structural, and we just have to go with it and enjoy it. And a lot of infrastructure companies are getting orders vis-a-vis this, and now we are looking at state budgets also being strengthened. We have seen the fiscal. We are talking about fiscal deficit of the center, but if you look at the fiscal deficit of the states, that fiscal deficit of the states has also improved over the last 2-3 years, and capex is becoming an integral part for states as well. We did see in this budget that the interest-free loans given to states has been increased to 1.5 trillion vis-a-vis what it was 1.3 trillion. So there has been an all-round effort by the center, by the states, and the private companies are also kind of contributing to this overall thrust. So that is what I believe, that this thrust on infrastructure which is there is likely to continue.
Yeah, Franklin. So next question will also come to you. So this is regarding the non-tax revenue that has been significantly increased in the revised estimates for this year. So I think partly it is because of the higher dividend that has come from RBI. So if you can speak on that, and second bit on the disinvestment targets. So even that has been hiked. So from that angle, what do you feel in terms of how achievable those figures could be?
Yeah, thanks, Amay. So one big benefit vis-a-vis the interim budget was that the interim budget did pencil in about 1 trillion rupees or 1 lakh crore rupees from the RBI, but RBI ended up giving 2.1 lakh crores, which effectively is about 0.3% of our GDP. So that was a straight benefit that we did receive, because of which it did help us in terms of our non-tax revenues. And I believe in terms of the disinvestment target, if you see, we have to understand that the public sector entities, these are really doing quite well. And the government would not want to, come and preempt or try and, do large scale OFSs or so on and so forth to, try and increase the level of disinvestment and try to bring down the value of the public sector, the value of the market cap of these public sector entities. And they did benefit from getting the better RBI dividend. So there was no need to kind of push forth on that disinvestment target, and try and increase that number, because things did get managed. And now there is a school of thought that the government may not want to completely be very aggressive in terms of getting these increasing the disinvestment targets, or going in for large scale OFSs and so on and so forth. Because these public sector entities, if you look at the profits also, they are generating post 2020, they are generating quite sizable amount of profits as well. So the government should not be would not be in too much of a hurry to kind of try and encash this, because this is again more structural. This is the public sector entities are generating a good amount of cash flow and profits in the last 3-4 years. So that is why I feel the disinvestment targets are okay, but it is not hard and fast that they have to anyways achieve it, because we are going ahead currently in terms of getting the net tax revenues from personal tax, from income tax. We are kind of running ahead of schedule. This year itself, the personal income taxes had grown by 21% on a YOY basis. So when there are other avenues, there is no need to kind of push and try and increase the disinvestment as well. So I think the government will kind of manage this number. Yeah.
Thanks, Franklin. There is multiple questions from participants around unlisted. So unlisted may, just like in real estate, it is earlier it was 24 months or more may you were with indexation, the tax rate was 20%, and which is now indexation हटा दी again 12.5% flat rate लगेगा. तो किसी किसी केस में पॉजिटिव होगा, किसी किसी केस में नेगेटिव होगा, बट दैट इज द न्यू रियलिटी. फॉर लार्जर सेक्शन आई थिंक जो इवन फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री क्लेम कर रहे हैं इट वुड बी पॉजिटिव फॉर द इन्वेस्टर्स. सो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस अराउंड दैट. तो अनलिस्टेड में आफ्टर 2 years it will be 12.5% फ्लैट. अगर 100 रुपीज का 200 हो गया तो जो एडिशनल 100 बना है उस पर 12.5% ₹12.5 सरकार को देना होगा, जो पहले 20% होता था बट इंडेक्सेशन के बाद होता था. एंड जो STCG है उस पर वो नॉर्मल स्लैब रेट पे पहले भी था, अभी भी है. राइट, हमें इसमें और कुछ चेंज नहीं है. तो with that I'll just hand over to Parvati to talk a bit about defense sector. What has been compared to the prospects before the budget and now, is there any meaningful change? बजट वैसे उनका जो ओवरऑल नंबर है वो तो सेम ही है, बट फिर भी काफी एक्सपेक्टेशन थी जो भी है. तो just your quick thoughts on the budget, the defense sector after the budget, the prospects of the sector. Should one continue to remain as bullish as if somebody was bullish before the budget?
Thanks, Jaspreet. So yes, with respect to the defense outlay per se, what was announced in the interim budget, the amount remains the same. And from a breakup within the defense where the money is going, largely is in sync to what was given in the interim budget. So to give an understanding, so there has been a substantial increase of the allocation towards aerospace and aero engines. Yeah. And especially with regards to various parts around it with respect to R&D in that space. So more than 50% increase from a YOY perspective. So that's one big change, and that's one big area. So all the companies which are operating at different parts of the value chain within this stand to benefit there. So while the budget largely remains flat when it comes to the Navy fleet and allocation around that side, what the other area where the allocation is gone up considerably from the outlays, other expenses. Now that's gone up more than 65% YOY. And what we look to see here is in other expenses, the products which are kind of looked in the ambit are primarily around radars. Then you have economic warfare, communication systems. So these are the areas which in pockets again stand to benefit. So all the companies which operate in these pockets will also see that. So yes, the overall focus on defense remains. Indigenization of various parts within the country remains the focus of the government. And as earlier when Franklin spoke, he did mention that the outlay had been increasing year on year for the last few years. So presently, while it is from an interim perspective, it is almost flat. It has seen a marginal increase on a YOY basis on a single digit perspective. But within the sub pockets, certain pockets, as I mentioned, have seen higher outlays. And that can be kept in mind when we look at investment decisions. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just summarize this. So in terms of overall view, directionally we are in the right direction. 10.5% GDP growth, which is practical number. 4.9% fiscal deficit. The impetus is towards unemployment, usko theek karna hai, towards youth, towards the women, towards poor, right, and so many sections of the society जहाँ पे बीच में गैप रहा है. So that is a good thing, and while remaining continuously heavy on capex, the broad capex, defense, and all other heavy duty programs, the next gen reforms, etc. चाहे वो PLI के around हो या making India as a manufacturing hub. Again, to summarize on the LTCG and STCG, again it reminds me 2018 में अगर LTCG 0 से 10 किया था और किसी ने अगर वो सोच के मार्केट से इंक्रीमेंटल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कम कर दी होंगी या अपना बेच के बाहर हो गया होगा जस्ट बिकॉज वो इस अनाउंसमेंट से खुश नहीं था, तो उसने वो जो वहां से अब तक जो निफ्टी 2.5 टाइम्स, जो मिड कैप 3.5 टाइम्स, जो मे बी स्मॉल कैप 4.5 टाइम्स हुए हैं, वो सारा रिटर्न मिस कर दिया है. एंड माइंड यू तब वो 0 से 10 हुआ था, 10% बढ़ा था, राइट, ओवरनाइट 10% था ना, यहाँ पे सिर्फ 2.5% एक्स्ट्रा की बात हो रही है. तो इतने से डिसीजन के लिए कोई ईगो को बीच में मत लाइएगा, राइट. इसमें इमोशनली बहुत ज्यादा अटैच मत होइएगा. अभी वो फोकस सिर्फ ये रखिए कि हमें 2.5% ज्यादा मेहनत करनी है, उतना ही है, राइट. अभी हम एक्स अमाउंट मेहनत कर रहे थे, हम 102.5x मेहनत करेंगे, राइट. हमें वो अपनी जेब से नहीं देना, हमें एक्स्ट्रा मार्केट से निकालेंगे. इफ दैट इज द लार्जर ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड दैट इज अ लार्जर गोल, वो हमारी जेब से नहीं जाएगा. बट अगर वो सोच के हम पैसा रोक लेंगे तो किसी का कोई फायदा नहीं होने वाला. एटलीस्ट हमारे लेवल पे जो स्मार्ट मनी मैनेजर है, फंड मैनेजर, एचएनआईज, अल्ट्रा एचएनआईज, वो पहले भी करोड़ों कमा रहे थे और आगे जाके भी कमाते रहेंगे, और हम लोग इस दुख में पीछे रह जाएंगे. तो विद दैट आई थिंक द लार्जर मैसेज आई थिंक आई हैव ट्राइड टू कम्युनिकेट. हम बहुत ज्यादा पोर्टफोलियो को रीजिक नहीं कर रहे हैं जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस इवेंट. आर लॉन्ग टर्म स्ट्रेटेजी, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट फोकस रिमेन्स इंटैक्ट. एंड फिर भी कोई ऐसा सवाल रह जाता है, कुछ भी है, तो फील फ्री टू राइट टू आवर कस्टमर सर्विस, our support desk, and we'll be happy to take up questions, and one of our counselors would be happy to answer questions around that. With that, I will say a big thank you to all of you, and we would obviously between now next budget में तो मिलेंगे ही मिलेंगे, but between now and next budget अगर कोई ऐसा event होता है जिसकी because of which we did it recently with the elections, but और कुछ event अगर आता है and we want to really share our views, we'll obviously again meet you in a similar YouTube live session. So thank you once again to spend this 1 hour with us on the evening, and happy investing. Thank you.